And now, ladies and gentlemen,
Put your thumbs up and say it's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, Tickety Boo, everything's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, son. Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo. So welcome back to another episode of Tickety Boo. We're trying something new. We've got a stack of question cards and each one has a prompt that none of us have seen before. What we're going to do is we're going to shuffle them, pick one at random and just see where it takes it. So there's no prep, just honest conversation. It might be daft. We might go places we never thought of. But either way, it's real. So I'm going to shuffle them and Iona, you're going to pick a card?
I'll pick a card today.
Okay, please pick well. Right. Pick a card.
I feel like we're doing a magic trick.
Yeah. Okay, and it's the green, the top. So the other side.
It's the other side. Oh, interesting one. How do you define success? Has that changed over time?
Oh, wow.
It's a biggie.
That is a biggie. Okay, all right. How do you define success and has it changed over time?
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, a large portion of my life success was defined by achievements. Financial, career, business, status. For a large part of my life. Don't know if that's sort of...
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when you've always been self-employed, you know.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, it's something that I've really been leaning into. I mean, I'm in my mid-50s now. And obviously, as I've shared before, I've had a lot of loss in the last sort of 18 months. And that's been pivotal in... I thought I had an idea of what success was. And at first I was like, it was also about being happy. But again, it was that financial, it's about having the things and doing that so I could experience life and travel and all of that. And what's become more important for me now is feeling fulfilled for me and then also making an impact. So for the greater good. And I really find it's getting to that deeper meaning and purpose. I think. And success has definitely been different for me each decade. Like every single decade, it's been very different. My 20s was probably more about having fun. And as long as I earned enough money to travel and all that, and it was age, like that suited me then. But right now, you know, I'm an empty nester now officially, by the way, big announcement. And it's like, okay, so now what? Because a lot of when I was self-employed and entrepreneurial and having my own businesses, it was about providing for my son. It was about showing him we can do anything we put our mind to. It was a juggle between sort of survival to like thriving. You know, it's like, I've got to do this. I've got to show him that this is possible. But I would say now it's very much, okay, well, how do I want to have an impact? What difference do I want to make? And it's not about what you leave behind. Success for me is about in this moment, and it's about the work, it's about relationships, it's about community, and whatever is important to you as an individual.
So, do we feel that there's part of our lives where success is a feeling? What I mean by that is there's a feeling that we should be doing somewhere or be at a certain point.
Well, yes. My answer was going to be, I want to reach that sense of mental utopia where you say to yourself, if the Grim Reaper come to get me tomorrow, I could say, stick a fork in me, I'm done. I've achieved everything I want to do, and you could be I don't want that to happen, but you could be completely content that you've achieved everything that you want to do. And that's not about physical achievement, it's just about that Zen feeling of feeling content. Mm-hmm. And you've finally achieved peace in yourself. Now, I've achieved that once. It was after a big project I'd done. And after it nearly killing me for 12 months, at the end of it, I had this incredible sense of achievement, and I just had this sort of, this mental utopia where I just felt perfect, and I was just thought, mm-hmm. At this moment in time, if God came for me, I could say, that's fine. I've done what I needed to. Mm-hmm. The other side of that is there is an element of achievement involved in how I see success, but it's not about money. It's about choices. It stopped becoming about money a long time ago. As long as everybody that relies on me is fed, they've got everything they need, but it's all about the choices. And then after that, it's about what you do with those choices. If you stay fixated on money and material things as success, you're totally missing the point.
Thing is, when you haven't got money,
I was just going to say that, yeah.
when you haven't got money, part of you sort of goes, well, I'm not successful.
Well, the unfortunate side of that is because your choices are restricted. So, yes, though it's not, I do agree, money is involved, but it's about the choices that it gives you.
I think I certainly have fallen into that trap of I benchmark my success by how much money I had or didn't have.
Well, and I think initially when we need to get our basic needs met, we know that from like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're looking for safety, community, like roof over our head, food on the table. It's getting those needs met, because for anyone listening, they'll go, well, look, I'm struggling to pay my bills. We know there's a lot of challenging situations going on out there right now. And it's like, yes, and you can choose to make different choices. Understand totally that you need to get your basic needs met. We're not saying that money's not important, and that's lovely when you can get to that point. But I think it's really looking for, well, what can I change? What choices can I make? It could be maybe drinking less. Even we're not talking about alcoholism. What I'm talking about is just someone who's maybe drinking socially. If you spend £50 a week, like if you're going out to the pub or out to dinner, like that's expensive. That ends up being like $2,400 a year.
But your choices don't have to be things that cost large fund. You do have to have your basic needs met, and that's where after you've done that, then you can have the choices of holidays, cars, and all that kind of stuff. But most certainly, the caveat to being happy and having choices isn't about the fact that you've got money. Yeah. Absolutely not. It's more probably about gratitude and making choices that.
Do you think a lot of people fall into the trap of creating a version of success that gets them external validation? People out of them go, look at them.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, there's still a strong element. There's still an element of me now that does that to a degree. And years in my career of, you want to be outwardly successful because you want people to know, that how hard. I think some of it's you want people to know how hard you're working. Some of it's you want people to know how successful you are.
But how do you feel when they don't acknowledge or see that?
Well,
do you end up striving more? So that's a trap you can fall into, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and that's starting to be in the external validation of success versus the internal.
But that's where I was kind of going with it, because our perception of success might not necessarily be a version that we've created. It's one that we feel we need to perform with outwardly.
Yeah, largely propped up by ego.
Yeah.
But the reality is, do I get annoyed if people don't recognise success? Well, actually, most of the people that you really care about couldn't give a monkey's. They're there whether you're successful or not. Yeah, absolutely. So it is actually a bit of a load of BS in many of the respects of.
I know for me, some of the happiest times in my life have actually been at points where I've had the least. You look back and you go, there are points in life where you maybe not had much money and material stuff, but actually there were some really happy moments in that time. But I can also look at moments in time where people outwardly go, great success, but been incredibly unhappy as well. So I think it's very easy to fall into that trap of success is things, status.
No. But if you remember your first car, it was nothing like what you might drive now, but you love that car more than anything. It was your most prided possession.
Do you know, I'm so glad you said that, because the other day there was a TV program on and it was quite an old car that I quite like. And part of me went, I would love to just go back to just driving something like that and being real and authentic. And I probably wouldn't miss being stuck on the side of the road waiting for the AA every other week. But you kind of get what I'm saying. Like, for a large part of life, you're like, I want a big, shiny, new, nice car, blah, 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 blah. And then later in life, you're like, actually, there's a part of me that kind of misses that sentiment of the simple.
Of course, but the value that you have in that material thing isn't relative to what it costs.
Yeah.
It's relative to what you put into doing it. Now, a friend of mine had put something on Facebook yesterday. I don't have much, but I know I've worked my A off, for everything I do have.
It's funny you were talking about cars, though, because when I was driving over here, because I live in Edinburgh, so it's an hour drive for me to get here. My car's 13 years old, and I decided I'm just going to like keep going and run it into the ground. Would I like a new car? Yeah. But actually, I want to travel more. I want to go and have experiences. So just getting from A to B is fine for me at the moment in this car until it starts. So that's what success and happiness is for me. And it's, again, coming back to that fulfillment. What are my priorities? How do I want to enjoy my success?
I think the car thing's blokey.
Yeah.
It's a bloke thing, isn't it? But obviously, there will be equivalent for, I want to be careful of my pronouns, but females, it's very easy for me and Ian to talk into this from cars and status and being the alpha male and the leader of the pack and all that kind of macho nonsense.
Oh, well, don't get me wrong. Like, I love cars, but I would rather, it's a choice I'm making. What am I going to spend my money on?
Yeah.
If I want to travel, like I have friends who have houses and live in different places in Europe. I want to go see them instead.
Mm-hmm.
So would I like a lovely fast car? Yes. I probably shouldn't have one because I do drive too fast at the best of times. And I have to kind of keep that down. And I do a lot of long distance driving in the UK. And yeah, when I'm driving then, I'm like, oh, I wish I had something nicer. So let's not stereotype.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, I don't spend a lot even in my home. So yeah, I'm spending my money on travel and experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, and this does change as you progress through life. Ian, you said something earlier about choices. Mm-hmm. And I think success for me now, or what I deem success for me personally to be, is the option when I get up to have options of what I can do or need to do that day. Mm-hmm. What's success for me now is where I have space. And what I mean by that is, I'm not saying every day is like this, but those days where you can get up and go, I've got half a day or a day before I actively need to be doing something.
Yeah.
It's crazy. At one point, I would have wanted to get up and go at 100 mile an hour, and another part of me now goes, I really would like to just take things a bit slower. But I think that's just part of getting a bit older, isn't it?
Some of my friends, they're doing quite really well in their careers, some of them. And in fact, all of them have got to a point where they were doing very well in their careers. They were building, they were earning good money, and they got to a point where they had all the bits, all the trimmings that come with the middle class strap. But what they actually wanted was time. Mm. So then they stopped negotiating money in the new contracts, and they start negotiating time. So some of them would go on to consultants. Some of them would just say, "I'm happy with the package, but I need to make sure I'm away early one day a week or whatever it is." Mm-hmm. And that's what you were saying.
Yeah, you do see people that keep shoving the envelope forward. When I just get to this point, I'll be successful, I've achieved. And then they push the envelope even further forwards. And it's almost like chasing this moving target and because you'll always want more, you'll always want better, you'll always want something shiny. And that's okay. Yeah. But at some point, that will change. Mm-hmm. And, I think it ties into your why, your values.
Definitely.
So to kind of summarize, how has it changed for you now? What is success for you now in a, short synopsis of success for me now is?
Freedom and experiences.
Okay. Ian?
Oh, right. I've got contentment.
Yeah.
Absolute top of the list is relationships.
Yeah.
And travel.
Right. So you've just said two things there. What have you had to do or change in your lives to make them a priority? Have you had to make sacrifices, changes, look at some stuff you've maybe not wanted to look at?
I've had to learn the hard way. I've pushed and I've pushed and I've pushed until my kids were grown up. And then I've looked at these young adults and realised I had big gaps in the memories of them growing up. Yeah. Because I pigeonholed myself as provider and protector. And because I was so conscious about this role of provider, I have gaps, which is my only, very happy with how we've been as parents. And they've had everything they need, but that's my one regret there. And we've spoke about it in different subjects before. So that realisation was one thing. Another thing was one of my businesses got taken out by another company for a large amount of money. And in the run-up to that, I thought, if my business goes, I'm going to lose my money. The money was going. I'll lose my house, I'll lose the car, Lou will go, I'll lose the kids, I'll be a part-time dad. And you catastrophise all this stuff in your head. And then you realise that largely it's just stuff, and everything that really mattered was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big changer for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the other one was when Lou got ill and I had to start thinking about what I said and understanding the consequences of everything. That made me slow down and think and consider everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you, Iona?
I would say it was the big switch from realizing that I didn't want to be stuck to bricks and mortar, whether it was working for someone else or only being able to have my business in bricks and mortar so people could come to me. So I went online a long time ago, but it was also having the ability to choose my hours, choose who I work with. And that was even when I was a Pilates instructor to what I'm doing now. That has been, so it wasn't a sacrifice, it was a choice of how I was going to do things differently and how I was going to show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what would we say to somebody who maybe has at a point in their life where they go, this is not what it was supposed to look like? This is, maybe they've achieved the things, but actually they've got there and it doesn't feel like there is that circle of completion.
Well,
Self-reflection?
Self-reflection, absolutely. Going back inside, challenging what your beliefs are that are making you unhappy.
Yeah.
Normally, it's the fact that you're always looking up and not looking down, which, just to clarify that, it's when you sort of look downwards and you see how many people haven't got what you've got and how many people would love to be in your position, rather than constantly looking up at the things that you haven't got, because there'll always be somebody that's got more.
Yeah.
But maybe the reason that you've got all the trimmings and you're not happy, it's because your happiness doesn't rely on that, and it's that realisation.
Yeah.
And looking back at your values and seeing what really matters.
I think for me, slowing life down and actually pressing the pause button and taking a breath actually shows you what's important. I think sometimes we're so busy hustling and grinding and moving and reacting that the very things that actually bring us the sense of success and peace, we miss them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting that this has been the card we picked, because this is actually what I'm finding more and more with the women that I'm working with. It's like, okay, well, what do I want? Like, why is success, as I was told by traditional means, why is it not bringing that fulfillment? And it's not to be negative on what you've accomplished. Yes, appreciate what you've done, and now you get to pivot, or you get to reevaluate your values. What would bring you fulfillment? Like your big why. What is it you want to do? Because it's never too late. And that's the thing. I think sometimes people worry. It's like, oh well, I'm stuck on, this is the trajectory. This is the way I've got to keep going. I have no choice. I've built this up. Maybe they have a company that people that are dependent on them, but it's like, it's small pivots. It can be about, having more time, slowing down, building your community and relationships, whatever it is for that person. I think everybody reaches a point where they go, hang on, this isn't what I thought it would be. And so you get to reevaluate. And it's about creating that vision and that legacy piece now that will bring you fulfillment. And it may not be what you think it is. So it's a deeper exploration of what's important, rather than just trying to build, the money in the bank to leave behind, or worry that you haven't built enough money. I think it's really coming back to yourself and reevaluating there. And a lot of people did that in 2020 when the world changed. There was a lot of people reevaluating.
Forced to stop,
Yeah, and so rather than wait for it to be a forced choice, people can choose now, because it's not an either or. I definitely feel like people can completely change and go and do something completely left field. That's okay too. But they can have a legacy business and do something creative or something more personal. They can have it all if they're very clear about what that is, and so that they don't get burnt out.
But if we're real, the thing that stops us redefining our version of success, or auditing, formatting, cutting stuff out of our life, is fear and wanting to avoid discomfort. Because even though we're not always happy with the things that we do and the way that we do them, they're familiar, so therefore we keep doing them. But we do struggle going, well, it's quite frightening, the thought of stopping doing all of that, and that makes me feel uncomfortable, so I'll just stay uncomfortable.
Yep, agreed. But a slightly different example is I look at my two brothers. They're both in business. One's a builder, one's an engineer. Both incredibly successful in their own way. Marcel, My older brother. He's got a great big company, loads of people, fleet of trucks. To look at him, I couldn't be proud of him, especially where he's come from. But he stayed in the driving seat at such a pace for so long, it's affected his health to the point where, working like he did is no longer an option. And then I look at my younger brother, and he's doing what I used to do. And he's actually doing it at a bigger, faster pace. He's 1 million miles an hour all the time, and that's his definition of success. And I just look at him and I've done that, and now I'm tired. I'm just tired, and I just do not want to do that anymore.
But you probably couldn't tell him right now, could you?
I couldn't tell him now because and why should I? He's now achieving what he set out to achieve.
Yeah.
Whereas what I want to do is, what I wanted to do was get off the train that my younger brother's on before I got into the state that my old brother's in. Because you can have all the money in the world, but now your health's going. How long are you going to enjoy it for?
All the money in the world can't buy your health back, can it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that fear and discomfort is, if you're looking at your life at the moment and your version of success hasn't quite played out how you think it is, or should have, is actually recognise that in order to change that, to get to this place of peace, it's going to feel a bit uncomfortable at first because it's not familiar, but that's okay. That's actually part of the process.
It really is part of the process, and it's stepping outside the comfort zone is actually where the magic is, because you're changing. Like, our unconscious minds just want to keep us safe, and so repeat those same patterns, keep us where we are. Whereas for me personally, and for the women I work with, it's definitely, as soon as we feel that discomfort, I actually get excited. It's like, oh, this means we're about to do something amazing. This means like you're up leveling, you're pushing your boundaries. It could be like the first time I spoke on stage, it was to an audience of 80 and I was really scared at that. Then the next time, it was in London, and so every time it's expanded or every new pivot I've done, if I don't have a little fear, then I'm actually worried I'm not doing the right thing. Like, I've made friends with my fear. That means I'm making steps in the right direction. But that's not to say whatever feels scary, go and do that. You have to learn to tell the difference between, okay, actually this is don't do that, because it can be a warning sign. But you can feel into that and you can get familiar with what is, fear and excitement feel the same. Or is this a warning sign to don't go down that way? But yeah, I love leaning into fear.
Brilliant. Well, that's our first What Even Are We Talking About episode. I quite enjoyed that. I thought it was quite good. We'll be doing more of these. As always, thank you for watching. Please do subscribe and give us a follow. And we look forward to catching up with you in the next episode of Tickety Boo.
If you or someone close to you needs to access mental health support, please contact your GP, or if it's out with normal office hours, get in touch with NHS 24 on 111. Alternatively, contact the Samaritans on 116 123. All calls are free of charge from any phone. You can also find more support information on the Tickety Boo website, ticketyboopodcast.co.uk.